Hello and welcome to another episode of Ofacez. I am your host, Mr. Mocha, and today, back with me, I have my main man, Drew Marston. If you don't know who Drew Marston is, he is the creator of the Spades magazine. He is the editor. He is the brains behind that publication. And today we're going to explore something that's new, but it's not new. Drew, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me back. I greatly appreciate being on.
So, Drew is a bisexual black bull within the lifestyle. Tell me how this came about and how this works.
Yeah, so, the bull part or the bi part?
Well, we already talked about the bull part.
Right.
So how do you navigate the lifestyle being a bisexual black male, black bull?
Yeah, so just really openly and honestly, it's really something that I've come out and been open and honest with, the general public, and not something that I try to hide over the last 3 years or so. And before that, really kind of coming to terms with, being bisexual and what that meant really happened after I was in the lifestyle. And then there were occasions and play dates with couples where I engaged in bi play and loved it and had great times and all of that. And around the start of the pandemic, I really just started really reassessing, lifestyle, myself generally, and not wanting to hide that, particularly in the lifestyle any longer, and decided to come out and own my truth.
So is this something, so you've been in the lifestyle for what, 15 years, was it?
16 years.
16 years. So were you bisexual when you got into the lifestyle, or did that happen when you got after you were in?
So yeah, looking back on it, I've always been bisexual. Acknowledging it was something completely different. And that was primarily because of, the religious background that I had. And also, too, I had some family members who were, gay, bisexual, that were disowned because of their sexual orientation. And so admitting that to myself wasn't really an option for me, because I felt like I would lose family and the community that I had grown up in. And as I got older, other things drove me away from that community, that religious community. But also, there were wedges and driving apart from family. So I really didn't have that necessarily. I didn't care about that as much anymore. So when I got into the lifestyle, I never really had, I'd never done bi play or anything of the sort. So as just the backdrop of that happening, like, the stuff with the family and leaving religion and all of that, I began to experiment more with bi play with couples that I was playing with. Because it's like, well, I'm already so far out of the norm of, my upbringing and, the communities that I've been a part of. I was so out far of the sexual mainstream or norm of what I've been brought up in, that why not try, some of these desires that I had. And so, when I got into the lifestyle, it's where I really started to experiment and have my first bi experiences.
Okay. Now, how's that affected your ability to, like, is that a thing that you meet couples? Let's say you meet a couple and you say, okay, this is my interest. Like with your Because one of the things that I've found in my experience that, if I meet a couple and I'm playing with a couple, I do appreciate if, the husband is bisexual, that he lets me know. I mean, at the end of the day, if he doesn't let me know, as long as he doesn't do anything that's outside of my comfort zone, I don't have an issue with it. But I find that I am more comfortable when a husband says, hey, these are my interests. So when you go into a situation with a couple, do you say that up front?
Yes. I always, a part of the little introduction, especially if I'm initiating contact with that couple, I let them know, hey, I'm a black bull, with such and such experience in the lifestyle. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I noticed that I thought would make us a good fit. There'll be a good connection there. But yeah, I always mention being bi so that way people know and they understand. And it's not something that they feel like they get blindsided with. So after I started having bi play in the lifestyle, it was something that I didn't mention. I didn't put it on any profiles or anything like that, just because there were a lot of profiles that you come across in which the couples go, no guy on guy play, no bi play, stuff like that. And so I pretty much did it as a defensive mechanism, really, to protect myself, so that way I wouldn't I wouldn't be rejected by couples that I wanted to play with.
So you're saying you didn't put that you were bisexual because you didn't want to be rejected by the couples who were not into bi play?
Exactly. And as I became more comfortable with myself and not wanting to hide that, I put it on all of my pages, all of my profiles, everything that I have. And what I've found is what happens is that a lot of times I'll get reached out to by couples that have that on their page, no guy contact, no guy on guy contact, because I'm listed as bi-bull and they've wanted to experience that, or they wanted to play in that way themselves, which is an interesting dynamic.
Wait, so you're saying that couples who openly say no bi play will reach out to you?
Yep. Yep. That's happened to me a lot of times.
Now,
I became open with being bi and open about that.
So is that one of those situations where you have a husband who's so concerned that people think that he's bi, that he's saying, oh, no bi play, but that's what he really wants? Or is
no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's my curiosity on that one.
Yeah. So what I think is that it's really, and this isn't always the case. I mean, I think there's a lot of genuine cases out there in which people are posting on their profile no bi play and they sincerely mean that. Like, that's not their thing, and that's, But what I find is a lot of people who are posting it on there are probably doing the same thing that I was doing when I didn't post that I was bi, when I knew that I was bi and I was engaging in bi play, because there's such a stigma around any type of male bisexuality in the lifestyle. And so what they're doing in some ways, I think some of the couples that contacted me that still had that on their profiles, what they were doing was, in a sense, virtue signaling or signaling to parts of the lifestyle. Okay, we're interested in this bull. This bull is very straight and he's not into any of that. And we don't want to ruin our chance of getting with that bull by acknowledging any sort of bi inclinations that we may have. So I think that's what was going on with a lot of those couples that contacted me, even though they had that on their page. And then when they found me, it was like, oh, okay, here's a guy who's open and out about it. So he's probably more willing to let us have that experience together.
Mm. And you know something, I definitely agree with that, because I will be honest with you, for years, if I saw that a couple had on their profile that they were into bi play, I would not engage or respond to that couple at all. What's interesting is it was years later that I realized that just because someone has that on their profile or omits it from their profile, you never really know who's what. And there were, there were multiple times where, after having conversations with people where they're like, oh, well, did you know that this particular couple, they're into bi play? And I'm like, wait, what? Like, I fucked right next to that guy. We've tag teamed someone together. And, early on, like, it would freak me out, like just freak me the fuck out completely. And then all of a sudden, like, you realize, like, wait, why am I freaked out by that? The guy hasn't touched me. The guy hasn't hit on me. He hasn't done anything to make me uncomfortable. But there were, lots of years that I would not even respond to a couple that had bi play on there, because I always assumed that, it's going to be automatically, oh, that means this guy's got to suck your dick, or this guy's going to want to play with your balls. It was like an automatic assumption. And so I think that once I realized that wasn't the case, or let me be more honest, once my wife taught me that wasn't the case,
yeah.
Once she explained to me that wasn't the case, but I definitely think that was a huge thing. And the second reason was I didn't want to be associated with it, because I didn't want other couples to think, okay, well, he's bisexual. And on our profile, because obviously we've been in the lifestyle and we know so many couples, so many people, there was a time where that had to change, because we have couples and friends in the lifestyle who on their profile, they say that the husband is bisexual, which I can remember the first couple who we were friends with years ago, who we'd known them out. We go to meet and greets. We'd always known, we hang out with them. We've been to sex clubs with them. I've played with the wife, and it just so happened we'd never friended each other on the sites. And we got a friend request, and I click on the friend request, and I'm like, I get Mrs. Mocha like, hey, did you know that this guy was bisexual? And she was like, how did you not know this guy was bisexual? You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you start realizing, and I can be adult enough to admit that our programming when we're growing up makes us almost, you're almost taught to be homophobic. It's just kind of what you're taught. So being deprogrammed was a big thing. And my wife really deprogrammed me to that, where it's like, okay, you're no one's gonna eat you. No one's gonna jump on your back, honey. You're a 230-pound martial artist. You're fine. You're safe. No one. And then you start realizing, like, oh, it's okay to associate with couples who are bisexual. It's okay to even play with his wife, and you don't have to assume that this person is going to do anything to you. But it was a very long time, and to this day, I have lots of male friends who will tell you openly, like, no, I'm not going to play with a wife whose husband is bisexual. And I'm like, dude, You play with a lot of wives with bisexual husbands that you just don't know they're bisexual.
Don't know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing that, you know, with playing, even with couples that I, you know, last year, I met up with a couple when I still lived in Southern Indiana, and they were just across the line in Kentucky from me, and the initial contact was with the husband. He's like, well, he said, so, you know, I do all the vetting, and I showed you to my wife, and she really loves your page. She, you know, loved the podcast links that you were on and everything. Really would like to make something happen. He said, I will let you know that I want to talk with you about one thing. And I said, sure, shoot, I'm an open book. He goes, I'm not bi. I don't do any guy on guy play. And I go, well, it's not obligatory. You know, it's not like you have to, you know, just because I'm bi, that bi play is obligatory. Like you have to do something. Like that's not the case. And to be honest with you, like even being bi, like I wasn't attracted to him at all. So like there wasn't like going to be an option for me. I was there purely for his wife, who was a complete knockout. And, you know, so it was one of those deals of like explaining to him, like, this isn't going to, what's not going to happen, and what I don't believe ever happens, is bi guy comes into a situation with a couple who isn't, where the male isn't bi, and everybody's having a great time. They go back to wherever to play, get naked. The wife is there, and this guy, the bi bull, just sees this straight husband naked for the first time. It's like, forget the wife. I gotta have it. And then you know, the Bible jumps on you, and the husband's like, no, like,
get him off me! Get him off me!
Yeah, and then like, you know, there's like a flash forward to him like in the therapist's office on the sofa in the fetal position. Is like, and it just changed everything for me in that moment. It's like, no, that doesn't happen, bro. Like that's not like the way this works. Not the way any of this works. You know, there's levels to it. And, you know, for me, when I've done bi play, there's levels to it for me. So for me personally, there have been couples in which I've been very attracted to the guy that I've played with. And if I'm not attracted, then I'm not going to say anything, especially, or if I am attracted and I know they're not, it doesn't behoove me to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. You know, that's water and bridge. You know, I'm there for the wife. Every situation, every couple that I play with, I'm there for the wife first. The bi play is just kind of like the gravy. You know what I mean? So there have been situations in which I played with the guy that I was attracted to the guy, and that was even better. And then there have been situations where the guy wasn't necessarily my type or someone that I would have played with in any other situation besides that situation, but I was attracted to the nuance and ways that I could dominate him, and that he was completely submissive to me, and the dynamic of dominating him and then being with his wife in front of him. You know? So there was that mental aspect really appeals to me. And then you throw in, you know, a little bit of the racial aspect of, you know, here's this white guy, usually of a certain age, you know, over 40 in a lot of cases, with, you know, big time career where he's probably like an executive, or he's, you know, in a position of authority. And in this instance, he's completely submissive to this black guy who's younger than him, who's literally about to have his way with his wife in front of him. That is like a real mind fuck. So, and one that like really turns me on. So like there's like all these dynamics that kind of go into that play. And then when you're talking with a couple, especially when you're talking with a couple who's into bi-play, you have to understand where they're at. Because in some cases, it's a situation where, you know, the guy may have had some bi-play before he got married and he told the wife about it and she was okay with it. Like if the journey went to that space, she was okay with it. You have some situations in which, you know, the guy has never had any experience with another man and it's something that he wants to experience. So like there's only certain things that he may want to do, like fluff or, you know, do things like that. And then there's some guys that are just like basically I like what you do to my wife, I want you to do to me too. Like there's, you know, that level of it. Yeah. And so, and then you have to add, then you have to, because there's three people in this. So as a bi bull, I take it as my responsibility to find out what is the wife's level of comfort. Because a lot of times what you'll have is the wife is interested in the idea, or she's okay with him receiving male on male pleasure. She's, you know, that doesn't bother her. She may not want to be around to see it because she may have like a mental thing about guy on guy, or an idea or a thing about seeing him get pleasure from someone else, not her. So whether that's a man or a woman. So as a bull, I have to, you know, ascertain and have those conversations with. So what is your level of comfort? Like once I find out like what he's looking for, like what his level of comfort is, what is your level of comfort? What are you wanting to see? What are you comfortable with? All of that. So then you understand where everybody's comfort levels are, where their boundaries are, and you can play within that. And if you can have a good time with that, then people are usually willing to push a little bit further past those boundaries or explore even more with you because they have comfort and they have trust level there.
So in that situation, in the situation where, so you're definitely like fully committed. You're in, like your role is your role within the lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Do you lose out on couples who are not into bi guys? And do you find that other men in the lifestyle are not as comfortable with you? And I ask that question because it's interesting where it's kind of one of those things where I think a lot of guys are very comfortable with the husbands being gay or bi or pan or whatever. Mm-hmm. But they're not comfortable if a bull is pan or bi or gay. How does that, like, do you find that affects how you interact, who you interact with, and how you feel within the space?
Yeah. So for me, what has fundamentally changed is that the couples that I'm interacting with, when I first got into the being open about being bi and all of that, one of the things that happened for me is I was worried that I would lose access to couples because of, you know, they don't play with bi bulls, and like, oh, I really want to be with that wife, but it's going to be uncomfortable in a lot of cases for the husband to be around the Bible. Okay. Now my belief is much different. I am becoming so comfortable in who I am and embracing that fully that I don't worry about I don't term it as losing, because if someone doesn't want to be with me, like, I'm at the same spot where I was, before I even met them. So I didn't really lose anything. I didn't invest anything, didn't lose anything. But for me, what has happened is I've had the benefit of achieving quality and quantity. So as I came out as bi, it actually opened me up to a lot more couples that I thought I wouldn't be able to play with. And then
explain that.
It distinguished me. It gave me a distinguishing feature of being different in a way that don't get me wrong, I'm not the only bi bull that's out there, but I'm a part of a very small very, very small minority of bulls who will be willing to be open and honest about it and not hide it. Okay. So that is appealing. And then there are couples out there that want to be able to have that experience with a bi bull. They want to be able to have a bull where, an experience with a bull where, of course, the wife is the focal point of all the play, but the husband can get in there where he fits in. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And without discomfort to anyone, without any judgment or anything. And so that opened me up to couples who were looking for that, but who weren't able to find that, and would reach out to me. It's like, hey, like, we're interested. That's something that we're looking for. So from the quantity perspective, the number of couples that's open to me is more than before, because it's, like I said, I have a distinguishing feature, one that couples are looking for. A lot of couples are looking for. And in many cases, I mean, there's at least several instances, and I believe we had talked about this a couple of times, in our conversations off mic. There are some couples that I literally thought I wouldn't, like, okay, I saw her and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have a shot. And now they've reached out to me because they know that I'm a bi bull and I'm open and honest about it. And not only do I have a shot, but like, they're actively pursuing me for play opportunities. So it's that. But also the quality of my interactions has gotten exponentially better, because there really are the barriers are the barriers that might be there, the walls or whatever, those aren't as prevalent. The couples that I meet and I play with, I have incredible experiences with, incredible dynamics with, conversation, sex, what have you. Like, it's the quality of those interactions is so much better than even some of my best experiences before I was open and honest about it. So my time in the lifestyle since coming out as a Bible has been just really like going to the next level for me personally.
So what do you say because, this is a conversation that over the years I've definitely had with quite a few guys, quite a few bulls out there who are bisexual, but they're worried about the the consequences of coming out. I mean, I know that I've talked to friends who have found out that a guy in their circle was bisexual, and they pretty much ostracized that guy. I know I've talked to, I had some conversations with a few guys who were saying that, they had played with couples, and the couples put their business out there. I mean, I actually had somebody, I've had guys come to me and like they're almost asking for like my blessing, like, hey, I'm not gay, but like, whoa. First of all, it's your dick. It's not mine. You do what you want with your dick. And right. From a male standpoint, men and women are different. When a guy thinks about doing something, like dudes don't really experiment with a thing. Like there's no such thing as a dude experimenting with something sexually, because a dude has already thought about it. He's beat his dick to it 1,000 times. And so whatever it is that you actually choose that you want to do, even if you haven't done it yet, your mind is fully committed to it.
Exactly.
Your first threesome, the first time you do anything, that's something that your mind has you've already perceived it. So what do you tell guys who are on the fence, or guys who are having a hard time saying, hey, this is how I feel and this is what I want to do, but I'm worried about being judged by my peers? What do you tell those guys?
The first thing I would tell them is you got to own your shit completely. And what I mean by that is, if you got to decide for yourself, what you want to be and how you want to be typecast, for lack of a better word. You have to, so if you got to come to a level, for myself, I came to a level of comfort about this is who I am, and I'm not willing to hide this part of myself in the lifestyle. I'm going to own that. I'm bi. I like bi play. I'm going to own the fuck out of that. And for some guys, if you're still in the headspace of, I'm going to lose, or I don't want to lose this group of people, then you need to decide what's more important to you. Is it more important to you to be acknowledged and accepted for who you are, or is it more important to you to be a part of this in this group of people? And at some point, and that's, I'm not going to judge anybody to say that's right or wrong, because I've been in spaces in which it was at some points in my journey, it was more important for me to be with this particular group or this particular couple than to be completely and fully who I was. Okay. Now that had some detrimental effects for me, because I never, completely owned my truth. And looking back on that now, for me personally, I felt that for me, that was a little bit immature to want to be with that couple just because I want to be with them. But that's how I felt at that point. Mm. So I would tell them is, you have to judge what is most important to you in that moment and then own it. But I can tell you that if you are bi, if you are into bi play, and you're worried about losing whatever couple or group that you lost, I can guarantee you, based on my experience alone, that it will open up more, better, and greater for you. And you'll find, like you find your tribe, and they gravitate towards you because you're putting that out into the universe. The second thing that I would say is we also have to become more cognizant in this lifestyle of labels and terms. Because I think a lot of times things get so fixed to where people almost feel like they're shackled to what that term means, and they can't experiment and make it their own and add their own little twist on it, and then be able to articulate that in a clear, concise way to the people that they meet. Those are people that I feel like have the best, experiences in this lifestyle. Oh, I'm this, and this is what this means to me. Okay. So, for instance, I'm fully capable and enjoy having experiences with couples in which I can have full-on play with the wife and oral play from the husband, or full-on play with both. There are guys that are not comfortable with that, do not want to do that. And that doesn't mean that, if you're full-on, if you have play with the husband where he fluffs you or whatever, that doesn't make you bi. You're more hetero-flexible at that point. You're very much heterosexual, but you're flexible to do some other things. And that's okay too, And so...
Wait.
Yeah. He said, hold on, wait a minute.
All right, here's the thing. Okay. Now you're putting too much stress on a label. Because here's the thing about a label. There's
Right.
two ways that people play with labels. They either pretend like this thing doesn't exist. There's a definition of a word. They don't like the definition. And what they don't like is the idea that is associated with the definition. Okay, because you hear the word bisexual, and most guys, the next word they jump to is homosexual. And then the next thing, the visual image is either some guy, giving it to him, or them, gagging on the dick. So the problem is when you hear the word bisexual, now all of a sudden, even if you don't do everything a person imagines you do, what you're doing now is you're trying to alter the definition because you don't like what the title insinuates. You can't have it both ways. You can't say people get too wrapped up in definitions and then you redefine the word because you don't like what the definition says. You can't tell people to be confident in what they're doing if you're telling them to be ashamed of what they're doing by removing pieces of it. Like with my wife, when you're talking about being a slut, either you're going to be a slut or you're not going to be a slut. You got to own it.
Here's where I'll push back on that a little bit, because I think that people have to feel in some ways a little bit comfortable in how they're either being perceived or how they're being, or how they want people to be perceived. And the perfect illustration of what I'll give you for that in the lifestyle is the term stag.
Mm-hmm.
Stag vixen. Before it was understood that, and historically, a guy who's watching his wife get fucked by another guy, whether that's willing or unwilling, was a cuckold. But because cuckold tended to be associated with certain elements of the lifestyle, particularly by play, straight guys started using the term stag as a more masculine or whatever term to identify, hey, we're not into like the bi aspects of like cuckold player. We associate being a cuck with that stuff that we don't do. And so this term is to clearly define for everybody, when you see this, okay, this is generally what they're into. So when I say that for like a bull, if you're not into...
At what point
You see
do I
what I'm
push
saying?
back on that what you just said? Do I wait till you finish the sentence, or do we chop it up in pieces?
No, go ahead.
All right, here's the thing. To me, I think when we're talking about breaking down and identifying things, all right, because if someone goes, okay, you're a cuckold. Okay, we understand that within this ecosystem, because the lifestyle is an ecosystem. All right. The reason that is just to give the person the definition, a clear definition of what we're doing. So I don't even think it has anything to do with necessarily saying, okay, because I don't want to be, feel emasculated. I think it comes down to this. When someone's asking me, hey, how do you guys play? All right. Because just like when you use the word swinger, you can be a soft swapper, you could be a full swapper. But if I say swinger, that doesn't define those two. Okay, well, what kind of swinger are you? So when we're talking about the difference between a cuckold and a stag, okay, what kind of guy are you? So that way, if I see the word cuckold, okay, I understand that you want to see your wife fucked, and there is a level of humiliation involved. When you say stag, okay, I understand that this guy is a person who lets his wife get fucked and he fucks other wives. If I say hot wife, I understand that this guy wants to promote his wife getting fucked, although he don't want humiliation. So now those definitions are there so that you can quickly identify which is which. Now, when we go back to the sexuality piece, all right, because especially for men, I can't speak for women, but for men, we understand that our sex always evolves. No man, nowhere, who's been having sex with women, his sex will always evolve if he's having consistent sex. So whether it be go from just having vaginal to now she's sucking your dick to now you're fucking in the ass. Now you're doing different positions. So in a situation, and I can only speak from the man's standpoint, when we're talking about male sexuality, if I am engaging in sexual acts with a man and a woman, by definition is bisexual. Just like the other day, I had somebody say to me that I work out with a preacher, and he was saying that one of his parishioners, he asked them, were they having sex out of wedlock? And they go, no, we're just doing oral. Okay, the title is oral sex. So he didn't ask, were you having intercourse? He said, are you having sex? So to me, she was playing word games. And to me, like if I say, okay, well, there's different levels to bisexuality, I agree with that. There's also different levels to sex. But, there's different levels to heterosexual sex, but it's heterosexual sex.
Right.
We can dive into the levels of it because, well, I only get my dick sucked. Okay, but that's still heterosexual. I only get hand jobs from chicks. Well, that's still heterosexual. But now, which once again, I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying, by definition, I think that the difference in the lifestyle is we shouldn't in the lifestyle have to do what a lot of people outside the lifestyle do, change the definition of things so that people feel better about them. I should be comfortable. If we're saying we want every guy who wants to be in this space to feel comfortable being bisexual, we should get him comfortable with the word and the concept and not try to construct it differently, because now you're training him to lie to couples. Well, no, I'm not bisexual. Either you are or you aren't. You know what I'm saying? Because now you give him a place to lie.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I can completely see that. My stance has always been because like I said, the stigma there is very, very real. for a lot of these guys.
I agree.
And, so I've always approached it, especially since being out in the open myself, of, comfort level, being able to articulate according to your comfort level without lying to people, basically. But no, I agree with being clear about the definitions and what this means, and so that way because you're 100% right. With the lifestyle that we're in, there should not be stigma around what people are doing among consenting adults. Mm-hmm. Because the lifestyle in and of itself is so far out of the quote unquote mainstream that this should be the most open and accepting place. But we bring a lot of that outside world into this. But no, I agree with your sentiments by and large on that.
So going into, going full circle with it, I will say that I am very impressed that, coming from the same level of programming that everyone else has come from, who stepped out of the vanilla world and into the lifestyle, being able to get past multiple levels of programming and say, okay, I understand that within my family, outside of the lifestyle, I've already seen how they respond to anyone who's not in a heterosexual relationship, but I'm going to still get into the lifestyle and be open and do what I want to do. I definitely think that there is a huge space, and a need for guys to be able to feel comfortable with it. It's conversation that I've had multiple times. I know that, I spoke to Mike C, and he's encountered those questions. Dimitri and I had a conversation about guys, being guys that guys come to and talk to them. It's cool to have a guy who is, this is what I want, this is what I like, and I'm very open up front about it. And because I know for me, it gets awkward when a guy is like looking to me to see if I'm going to judge him. Like, bro, I'm not going to judge you. Like, I don't.
Right.
Like, I don't care what you do with your dick. Like, it's not my dick. You know what I'm saying? Are we still going to be friends after? Absolutely. But we also had to get past a certain level of programming, because you're programmed your whole life that's not cool. And I've said it before, and I'll say it honestly. My wife is the one who changed my perspective on how I respond to that. And we've had the discussion many times about men not having spaces where they can express themselves. And right now there's a huge movement. And, since we started the podcast back in 2019, my wife has been an advocate for women to, be dirty, be open, be slutty, be what you want to be. And that's something that's really taken off. But there's still there's not a space for dudes who can say, I want to do what I want. And that's within the lifestyle. Now, of course, there's different communities in different places where, guys can have a certain level of freedom. But within the lifestyle, it still doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because, guys, we talk about guys managing their emotions. So, I appreciate you sharing that. And, I definitely think that you would be a good resource for guys who are saying, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this openly, but I don't know if I don't know what to expect if I decide to openly embrace being a bisexual black bull, because the black culture is not very open to men being anything but, super, macho, manly, all dick all the time. you know.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing, with dealing with that. It's so I feel like there, like I said, in the lifestyle, there's a lot of acceptance for me from couples that I've interacted with since I've come out to the open. The reaction from other bulls has been kind of mixed. There's been some guys that have, told me that that wasn't something like they were. I had one bull that reached out to me who's kind of become a little bit more antagonistic towards me. I think it's driven by the fact of me being openly bi. But I remember first conversation that we had after I made a post about it was, I'm not down with that. And I go, that's okay. Like you're not who I'm talking to anyway, but it's not like, you're not the ultimate arbiter of like,
well, this is just like a random citizen who jumped in to tell you that he wasn't down with that.
No, he's a bull. He's in the lifestyle community, but he wasn't down with me being open about being a bi bull.
Oh, well, did you recant everything you said and apologize to the group?
Hell no. Hell no. Like, I mean, hey, I'm over here doing me. You go over there and you do you. You know what I mean? So it was like kind of one of those deals. Like specifically when he said that, like I'm not down with that. Like, okay, nobody asked you.
that's
I mean, because to be honest with you, like as I've gotten to know him or know of him, particularly, especially like how he treats some couples, I ain't down with some of the stuff he does. But that's how you roll, and that's this is how I roll over here. So it's kind of that's kind of been one of those things. But the funny thing is, there's a lot of guys, yourself, Mike, some others, who play at a high level, great reputation within the lifestyle, who have been open, accepting, but also affirming. Like, hey, do you. Whatever you do, continue to do it with integrity. And that's been really, really affirming to me over this journey. And one of the things is, another place that I've gotten to is just, if somebody's not going to accept it or be accepting of it, this isn't, I don't share this to seek approval or acceptance from everybody. I share this so people understand who I am, and those people who want to deal with me understand who I am and understand who I am fully. So
nice, very nice. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm definitely glad to hear that nobody can come in and tell you that they not cool with it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, fuck it, I changed my mind. I mean, I respect that. Then I wouldn't respect you.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, you're not cool with it? I'm sorry, hold on. Let me go over here and call all this pussy that wants to with me and tell them that I'm not going to, because you're not cool with it. Like,
some random dude said this ain't cool, so now I'm going to change my whole life. No, fuck out of here.
Right?
I definitely think that, if you're going to, you stick by what you believe. And if it's not affecting anybody else, like, I don't give a fuck what you think about what I do.
Right.
And my there's other questions. The other question is, when you're dealing with, what do you say to couples? What do you say to couples when they encounter bulls who are not openly bisexual, but they figure out a way to pull it out of them, or they do. I had a gentleman come to me who was pissed off because one of the couples who he played with, not realizing that the lifestyle is a small community, spoke to someone else about how they played. And that couple came back to him. And he was mad. Like, he was wanting to fight the husband mad. Like, bro, calm down. Like, calm down. You know, it's like, well, you know, these couples say they want you to be discreet and blah, 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 blah. And, like, what do you say to couples when it comes to doing things like that?
I would tell them don't. I think it would just be best for them and to avoid any drama, to not put someone's business out there, especially if you know that, like, they're very discreet and, closeted about it. I can't speak to that situation. I've seen situations like that in which the couple was like, oh, well, we engage with this guy and we know this couple is looking for it. And so it's kind of like a recommendation kind of deal. I just wouldn't do that unless you know that bull is open and honest about it, or you've had a conversation with him and said, hey, like, we've got this couple who we've had conversations with them and they understand they're looking for a similar type of play that we have. And we just want to see if you would be okay with us letting them know that that's something that you're open to, and then going from there, just simple consideration. But yeah, I wouldn't just drop that with the other couple, because then you have another situation where, like, that other couple, I mean, you don't know if, like, they go directly to that bull. It's like, hey, so we hear that, you're cool with this. And so you're willing to play. And now he's upset. Or you don't know if they went and told some other couples and now that's floating around. And then that couple tells another bull or something. And that bull uses that maliciously to try to slander this guy or, bring it up or as a joke or tease. Like, yeah, that's just a bad situation. So,
yeah. And I know, like, how my wife and I have been out to dinner with a couple. And they're like, oh, yeah, this guy does this guy does that. And we're like, hey, don't use his name. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't say his name. That's a violation. We're not going to repeat it. But, like, holy shit, you just said that out loud, I mean, and I know that just we tend to be giving, we get a lot of information because people know we're discreet. But I would definitely tell couples, be careful as far as saying names. And then the last question I will ask is this. Okay. And this is something that I learned once because we were just, hosting, doing so many things in lifestyle. So we got to know so many people. But before that, like, if you're explaining to guys who say, well, if I'm looking at a profile and it says the husband is, the husband's is bisexual versus not bisexual. So you choose not to play with them, but you wind up playing with, couples where there's husbands who just aren't openly bisexual. So in your experience, how do you help guys get comfortable with the fact that, number one, you never know who's bisexual, and number two, guys who are openly bisexual are not necessarily trying to grab your balls?
That's a good question. I've thought about this, especially when talking to other bulls about this. I think the best thing that I could do is to tell you to work on your communication piece in the beginning, where you're, like, clearly communicating boundaries and understanding what they want and what you're looking for from the beginning, so you can understand if that's a fit. And then enforcing those boundaries. So, like, for instance, you go into a situation and you're okay with this, but you're not okay with that, and that husband crosses the line. You can clearly say, "Hey, that's not cool. This crosses the line. This isn't acceptable." But for a lot of guys that, if there's a bi husband, I think a lot of guys have to get into the mindset of, because I'm bi doesn't mean I want to be with you. It's the same for, like, if you're straight. You're straight. You love to fuck women. You love pussy. That doesn't mean you're gonna fuck every single woman that you see, or will want to fuck every single woman that you see. And the attraction works the same way. What I find very interesting about the way particularly men think about bisexual, pansexual, and gay men is that there's some that they're unable to control their sexual urge. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know socially, like, where that comes from. But that seems to be ingrained in us, programming wise, especially those of us who come from particularly homophobic backgrounds, that that they're just going to pounce on you. They can't control themselves once they're exposed to your masculinity, or to your dick or something. They become sexual zombies.
You whip your dick out, they lose their mind. I gotta have it.
Exactly.
Chain them to the chair.
I worked with this guy a long time ago on this job that I had, one of my very first jobs, and this guy was about as homophobic as they come. He had a whole lot of other phobias about a whole bunch of other people that weren't gay, but he was particularly homophobic, and he would say that, like, there was this so it was a restaurant, and in this particular restaurant, it had, like, the cook line. You could see the cooks, like, cooking, and so sometimes I would go up there and help him cook, and I was like the assistant to him. And so we're up there, and there was this gay guy that would come in. He's like an interior decorator, but this place was like a steakhouse, had a lot of wealthy people that came in there, a lot of older wealthy people. But then this guy come in there all the time with lots of clients. And it's very, very flamboyant, floral print jackets and everything. Every time this guy would come in, just a friendly, nice guy, greeted everybody. Every time this guy come in, this particular guy, the cook that I worked with, make a big show of having to go back to the back. Oh, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. He's trying to come over here. And I'm like, and so one day I said to him, I said, bro, you live at home with your mama. Like, you don't have, like, taking the litter on women. What do you think this guy wants? You know what I mean?
Like, you can't even get no pussy. The fuck out of here.
You know what I'm like? You can't even go into, like, the Humane Society and get some pussy.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And you think this guy is just going to come over here and, like, attack you? Stop.
He thought he was irresistible.
He thought he was irresistible, that somehow every gay man would want him. And I'm like, dude, that's not the way this works.
Wow.
That's not the way any of this works. And so, like, long story short, like, number one, just understand, what these couples are wanting, what they're looking for. And if that's not you, if that's not your desire, if that's not your interest, and you're there for the wife, don't be ashamed of saying that in a very tactful way. I'm just here for the wife. I'm not interested in that. And I can
yelling out, you can't suck my dick. That's not necessary.
That's not, no, that's not.
Don't touch my butthole.
Right? Or like as soon as you get done with fucking the wife, grabbing your clothes and like cuffing yourself, like.
Cover yourself, smash the blanket off the bed and wrap yourself in it.
I wouldn't advise that
either. You're making it weird, bro. You're making it weird.
Right? Because they're looking at you like, what in the world? So it's one of those situations of like, just, tactfully say, because I guarantee you that couple has had situations in which they've been in more situations with a straight bull who wasn't comfortable with a bi cuck and they had to, or a bi husband, and they had to suppress that, then you've been in situations where you've been clearly uncomfortable or you were in a situation with someone who was open and honest about who they were, and that made you feel some kind of way.
Yeah, it makes sense. That makes sense because I would I guess that makes sense because they have interacted with way more straight bulls than they would have interacted with bisexual bulls.
Yep. And so if you come to them and you say, hey, listen, I get it. I understand that's your desire. That's just not something that I do or that I'm particularly interested in. But like, if you're wanting a situation in which like, I play with your wife and you watch and stuff like that, hey, I'm cool with that. And you approach it, tactfully, respectfully, I guarantee they will reciprocate.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed. Because those situations in which you find the guy is, over aggressive or something like that, that is a very, 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 very minute, small occurrence.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like that single guy stigma, where every single guy is an animal who can't control itself, and single dudes, we get pissed off, but then we turn right around and do it to the to the husband who is bisexual. Like, I don't want you to assume that because I'm a single dude that I'm automatically be an idiot when I meet your wife. Exactly. But then I automatically, like now, as soon as you get around a bisexual dude, you're like, I am so fuckable. He's not going to be able to contain himself.
And that's that. I don't know if that's an ego thing. I don't know if that is something deeper there about what we think about male sexuality, and that somehow that male sexuality it takes more to control male sexuality than it does female sexuality. I don't know what that is. Like there's something there that I haven't really been able to put my finger on. But I can tell you from personal experience, from anecdotal experience, and just from living, like, these guys ain't going to jump you. Like, it's not going to be a situation where, like, this guy's going to attempt to rape you and you're, like, having to look at the wife and tell her, call 911 or something like this. No, it's not going to be like a police report. You got to beat this guy up or something like that. Like, there's no such thing as a sexual zombie, and they don't exist for gay and bi men either.
That makes sense. I mean, and I think that once again, you go back to the old programming. It's programming, and everybody has some type of programming depending upon the year that you were born in. If you were born in the 40s and 50s, you would have thought that all black men were savages with the inability to control themselves, and then now we fast forward to, our programming, you being born in the, 70s and 80s, you think that all gay men bisexual men, pansexual men, are looking at every dude, like the creeper in the movie theater with his hand under his pants, beating his dick, staring them in the eyes. So yeah, that makes sense. And once again, I'll tell you, it was my wife who fixed me on that. Like, it was her. And I will say, I know I would have never agreed with it when we first met, because I was, I know I was homophobic when I met my wife. I never thought I was. I've been in the lifestyle for years, and I had no problem at all. Like, I've never been mean to a person who had different sexual preferences. I was always respectful. But then I realized that it was just, when you don't see people, you don't see a group of people, like, you don't see them like people. Like,
right.
You don't see them as people, you see them as a group. And I realized, like, that to me is, like, I never, in your mind, you grow up and you're like, I don't understand how people can be racist. I don't understand how people can be sexist. And that's because, I wasn't racist and I wasn't sexist. But then all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, this guy sucks dick. Wait a minute. It's like, and then my wife is like, you do realize, like, basically you kind of treat them like you people. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I'm a fucking bigot. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then, that's where everything changes. She's like, don't worry, honey, I'll fix you. And then, she, and I mind you, this was years ago, but, you behave that way. And you got to think of the close proximity that I, as an experienced bull, has played with couples for all the years before I met my wife. Like, I should have been the least bit homophobic, because when you are playing with cucks and cuckold couples, even if you're not getting fluffed, you're in fucking close proximity.
Exactly.
You're sitting there, you fuck the wife, you're over there eating your bag of Cheetos and drinking your Gatorade while he's cleaning her up, and you're talking about sports. Like, that don't freak you out, but all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, those people. Like, so yeah. So I can definitely see how the conditioning, fucks us up. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
So, before we wrap this thing up, give me some words of wisdom before we wrap this one up. It's good shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think the best way I can describe it is something that's kind of becoming a signature catchphrase for me. I was talking to someone else, a bull that I, he's like, yeah, you need to keep saying that. But my philosophy is just kind of distilled into, they want a dick, don't be a dick. And I just, act with integrity, nice. Treat people how you want to be treated, and, get over your petty divisions and preconceived notions, and treat people like human beings. And I guarantee you, you're going to have some positive experiences. Even if you don't end up playing with some, even if that's not your thing and that's not your kind of play, you're going to meet some quality people who are going to respect your boundaries and probably give you some really incredible experiences. So, yeah. Just, they want the dick. They don't want you to be a dick.
I think that works for everybody. I think that's pretty universal. Well, Drew, it has been amazing yet again. I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate your insight, your experience, and your open-mindedness. And man, this is the third one, man. We still got more to do in the series, everybody. But man, this has been a great. I think this has probably been one of the most most daring podcast that I think I've done. I'm really looking forward to the way the male population responds to this podcast.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So
Really like to hear the thoughts, good and bad. I mean, I really don't. The good, I definitely want to hear. The bad, I'm kind of interested. And I mean, either way, love to hear people's feedback and opinions. And don't be shy. Don't be shy at all.
Yeah, but be nice. Because
yeah, be nice, of course.
Because I don't mind saying what's on my mind. I have no problem with the confrontation. So,
Right.
Don't ask for it and I won't deliver it.
Right.
Well, listen, until next time, everybody, thank you for joining Ofacez. I am Mr. Mocha, on with Drew Marston. We will see you back soon. And you're looking like you can't take anymore.